Welcome everybody to the DELISA webinar. This is our last for the spring of 2023. Today we're going to be discussing second career academic librarianship with an esteemed panel of recent academic librarians. We're going to be hearing from Mary Camella of the University at Buffalo, where she is the Student Support and Engagement Librarian. Julie Sattel of SUNY Buffalo State University, which, believe it or not, is a completely different institution. And they are the User Experience and Outreach Librarian. And finally, Justin Crossfox, also of SUNY Buff State University, and also User Experience and Outreach Librarian. In the spirit of full disclosure, Professor Crossfox is my husband. So I'll let you all know that up front. There's no preference, but it is relevant. So welcome to the three of you. Thank you for joining us. As you know, the DELISA webinar series is geared toward current MSLIS students at St. John's University based in Queens, although we are a completely online program accredited by the American Library Association, and DELISA, our student association, is a student chapter of the American Library Association. So on behalf of all of us, thank you and welcome. Let's dive in. I'd like to relate the content of our webinars to the DLIS program goals. And our 7 program goals, published this semester, spring 2023, revised from the 8 previous program goals, are based on the core competencies of librarianship as established by the American Library Association. So you should all be familiar with this. These were guiding principles in your own LIS education. But primarily, I want to focus first on the foundations of the profession. Now, here's a side note. When I design a slide deck, I use the design wizard in PowerPoint to suggest graphics and layouts, etc., because I'm lazy. When I hit the button for design wizard, this was the suggestion. These on the right-hand side of the screen are the foundations of the profession, meaning the cosmetics that we all use to build our practice upon. So the question is, why LIS? So I'll ask Julie first. Why LIS? Why did you come into librarianship?
Well, first of all, I went to grad school initially because I didn't know what to do with my life, and I thought that being a grad student would be a nice way to not have to pay off my student loans right away. And so I applied for a PhD program in sociology because I had taken sociology in undergrad and loved it. And wound up finishing my PhD and working for a time as an assistant professor of sociology. And I found that, for one thing, the tenure track life of a faculty member is just really not conducive to having any sort of healthy work-life balance. And I also found that I was super excited about research still, but I was less excited about my own research. I was much more excited about helping other people with their research questions. And when I kind of discovered librarianship as an option, it was like, oh, why hadn't I thought of that before? I was kind of frustrated with myself a little bit, but ultimately the journey led me to where I am now, and I feel that I'm able to use my strong social science background, especially research background, currently in academic librarianship. So I turned to librarianship in some ways because regular academia had failed me in some ways, or just wasn't really meeting my needs as for who I was as a human being. And I wanted to still use the skills that I had developed in my PhD program while still developing further skills into librarianship.
So the old glutton for punishment argument,
Just
right?
more school, more school.
Mary, how about you?
Sure. So I feel like for me, it was a combination of things. So I probably never even thought about librarianship until, as a career, until my senior year of college. I was writing an honors thesis in German about an 19th century German play. Found myself needing a lot of sources that were not as easily found as the sources I had been previously using in my educational journey. So worked really closely with the German librarian at my institution, really enjoyed delving into library resources, really enjoyed our interactions, and realized, oh, this is a career path where I don't have to pick necessarily one area of interest. I can just keep learning about whatever interests me and whatever interests my patrons. I tend to be like a really curious person. Like the moment a thought pops into my head, if it's a question, I've got to Google it. I've got to go to a Wikipedia deep dive. And now I have a job where I get to do that. So that's a huge part of it. Obviously, what you think of mostly when people hear LIS or librarianship, they think about books. That was a huge formative experience for me, was being an avid reader, finding a really safe space in the library, connecting through books and through literature, which is something that I really enjoyed while I was working in school libraries. Not something that I'm doing a ton now in academic libraries, but now that I'm starting to feel a little bit more settled, I am looking for more ways to incorporate reading promotion, research to do with, literature, book clubs, etc. And then the last thing that has been sort of a found passion for me when it comes to LIS is teaching information literacy. Obviously comes up a ton in school and then definitely in practice. And, thinking about information literacy, you start to realize that it is basically the basis of the future of our society is whether people are able to interact with and evaluate information that's presented to them. So I really take that part of the job seriously as well, and I feel very passionately about it.
That's good. Yeah, literacy for literacy's sake, right? It's something that is kind of overlooked, I think, in a lot of ways, and especially in the primary and secondary education uh, field. It's something that, we've tended to, over the past 20, 30 years in this country, I think we've graduated a lot more uh, information illiterate people than we should have, considering the advent of the computer and the internet, right? Which is something we've seen develop in our own lifetime. Justin, how about you? Why LIS?
So I came to this accidentally and kind of backwards. I finished undergrad and I wanted to work in children's publishing. And this was a while ago, and there were no jobs, and I was depressed and living in my parents' basement. And someone said to take an introduction to library science course, and I was like, that's bananas. I don't want to do that. But it was the only way that I could continue living in my parents' basement was if I went back to school. So I took intro and accidentally fell in love with the field. And I was like, it's I could use my talents to be a springboard for other people. And, for me, this is not a field where we're ever going to get parades or, the huge bucks or anything like that. But you can really make serious impacts with people and really help propel their research or just their needs. So I found it incredibly rewarding. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I tell people a lot that it's my impression that there's like half of the people go into librarianship because the librarian was the only person that spoke to them in high school, and the other half fall into librarianship because they were at a cocktail party and someone said, "Oh, you should be a librarian." Like that's my experience. Like that's how my students' demographic breaks down. It's almost to a person, but I digress. Let's talk about social justice, which was just added to the ALA core competencies, and that's why we revised our program goals. Well, first of all, the ALA defines social justice and librarianship as equitably distributing library staff collections and facility resources among all user groups. And I think this is a really nice bucket for inclusive programming, but also accessible materials in your collection. Of course, the physical space should be accessible, but I like the idea of distributing library staff in an equitable way, making sure, I guess, that every department is staffed so that resources are made available to our users. And that's something that's a bit of a challenge. How have you seen your libraries integrate this concept of social justice, either recently or historically, or maybe something that's in the works? Mary, do you have any answer?
Yes, so my role, my title is student support and engagement librarian, but my main focus is undergraduate education and I do a lot of teaching. So I can talk about it a little bit from the teaching side, and then I can also talk about it a little bit from the professional side and some committee work that I've been doing. So my department teaches 4 embedded sessions with English 105, which is UB's first year composition class. And I am new to the team as of last year, but over the last 2 years, our team has been integrating critical information literacy into those lessons. So basically, helping students to evaluate the power structures that are inherently involved with scholarly research and kind of challenging this ivory tower of scholarly research as the pinnacle of, information that you can include in your research, helping to guide students to resources that might amplify lesser represented voices in research, also encouraging them to take a look at their sources as a big picture, as a full conversation and see, is there anybody who's being left out of that conversation? How can we add that in? How can we incorporate a non-traditional source? I'm really encouraging them to think outside of the box when it comes to scholarship and what that means. So that's been really, really rewarding. It's definitely still a work in progress, but I think any sort of explicit instruction or guidance you can give students, especially since they are first years, I hope that can build as they get deeper into their areas of study and start doing even more research. And then also, like I said, on more of the professional side, I am part of UB's SJAG committee, which I just looked up the acronym to make sure I don't mess it up. It's the Equity and Social Justice Advisory Group. So that's a committee that I believe, again, this is a little before my time, but was established here at UB in 2020 to work on different equity and social justice topics within the libraries. They've done things like build an asynchronous course called Critical 716 that they ran with the libraries with discussion groups. They've worked with different task forces like facilities to ensure that there's accessibility of all the library spaces. I'm actually also involved with one of the task forces, which is the training task force. And this year we brought in 2 DEI speakers who came and did a session. One about microaggressions in libraries, and then one about queer identity in libraries. We're also now bringing in Dieta Jones and Associates for a really extensive course, DEI course for the UB libraries to undertake. So it's been really valuable to see these trainings come to campus and then also to get to participate in these trainings and learn a little bit more. And I do feel with each subsequent training we have, it opens the lines of communication a little bit more to start having those tough conversations. So it's been really valuable.
Yeah, that's tough conversations is definitely how I would classify our own institution. Again, like you said, starting in 2020, in response to the police killing of Black civilians in this country and the social unrest movement that emerged, especially at the height of the pandemic lockdowns. Um, we've seen a lot of response, but a lot of the first year discourse at these high level committees was defining terms like microaggression and anti-racist, and so it was fun for me to be part of that, to see academics kind of stepping up. And I think that's what's fascinating, that a lot of people don't really get a sense of, especially undergrads, when it comes to higher ed, because we are institutions of learning, promoting lifelong learning. There are so many opportunities for faculty to sit in rooms and hear from experts, so that they can bring those values and bring what they learn, those lessons, into their coursework and their syllabi. So it's very impactful work to be in those rooms and in on those meetings. So I'm glad that your library is giving you the chance to take such a formative role. Justin, how about you? How's your library doing with social justice?
So I think we have some great things. I think Julie is our heavy hitter powerhouse in all of this. So I'm just going to touch on one quick thing, which is something that Julie and I worked on together when we were doing a Library 100 introduction to research. I forget the exact title of the course we taught. But we had just changed over from Blackboard to Brightspace, and we built the course kind of from the ground up together with accessibility completely in mind for equity. And it was really, really interesting and a lot of work. And we did a lot of kind of stuff in the back end to make sure that our users that needed accessibility accommodations could use the course. And the point of this little anecdote is that we actually received a letter of a student of ours that needed accommodation, and it was really interesting because we couldn't understand what to do, and we had to go to student accessibility services and ask, what we needed to do for this letter because we thought everything was already in line, and it turns out it was just the form letter of what the student's accommodation is, and we had already met all of their accommodations before we even got the letter. And so I just thought that that was really, really cool, and something that, we as librarians, if we're kind of on that, we're already thinking about it when we need when these accommodations arise, if they've already been built into our services, there's no bump. It's just a straight shot. And now I'm going to pass that over to Julie.
Well, before we get to Julie, I just want to say that this is something that I've talked about in DLIS for years. When we bring accessibility into our professional practice as a foundation, uh, almost by default, we find ourselves creating equitable and inclusive materials, programs, etc. Because when it's at the basis, when it's at ground level, um, accessibility is a ramp to equity and inclusion and diversity. We see it as a guidepost in our practice, and like I said, we accidentally you found this form letter through a loop, but that's a formality that comes from the accessibility services department. But you had already addressed that, and so there's no, like you said, there's no bump. It's a seamless transition for the students and for the users, right? When we create digital media and we create a video and we include a transcript or captions from the jump, like from inception. Uh, that becomes equitable and inclusive media. And when we do this as part of our individual practice, we end up shining a light on ourselves. And that's something I found. I'm on the college's anti-racism task force subcommittee on policies, practices, and procedures. And we've been revising policy statements. And I do the revision, and I start by making the document ADA accessible. I start by making the document machine readable. And that gets a gold star from the administration because no one else is doing that kind of work. But that's just part of my personal practice. I prefer to design documents and media that is accessible from the beginning. And that touches on UDL. I've given presentations on this, but I digress. Julie, how have you seen your institution? I know that you're the social justice librarian, I think, at your institution. So how do you see your institution responding to this social justice mandate?
Well, the university or the library has been very supportive of my interests in particular, but I think of all the librarians' interests in general, but my interest in particular in terms of social justice. I've identified as a scholar activist for many years, with more of an emphasis on the activism than on the scholarship, sadly, for my publishing career. But one of the things that I initiated at Butler Library was a social justice book club. And so that's a university-wide book club in which we have difficult conversations about challenging topics. So one of the books that we read for this past year was about abortion, which was particularly timely given the Dobbs decision by the Supreme Court last summer, in summer of 2022. And we read the book in small groups and discussed it. Basically, whoever wanted to join the book club, students, faculty, and staff could join. We also read another book about Black women's health and capitalism and white supremacy called It's Always Been Ours. And I'm currently in the market for a new book for next year. So I'm kind of hurriedly looking through all the possible book lists that there are. Another project that I've worked on that I've been supported on here is a diversity audit. So looking at who is represented in the books that we collect and whether or not that representation matches our users. At Buff State, we're a majority minority institution, so the majority of our students are people of color. And it's important that they see themselves reflected in the books that we carry in our collections. They certainly won't see themselves reflected in librarianship, unfortunately, because librarianship is incredibly white. But we hope that they will see themselves reflected in our collections. So the diversity audit is an analysis of focusing, first of all, on children's books that we have here, focusing within that on picture books to see what main characters are being represented, what race are the main characters, are animals and robots and other non-human entities being represented more than kids of color. Unfortunately, yes. But that's also a reflection of publishing, but trying to then use that data to advocate for purchasing more books that have better representation. Another project that I'm working on deals with displays in the library. So we've started having rotating monthly displays for the various Heritage Month celebrations that come up throughout the year. And then we're also increasingly doing more topical displays that also rotate monthly. And so trying with those displays to, we'll talk about space in a minute, I think, but in our library, Butler Library, the first floor doesn't really have any books. It's a whole lot of other things, not books. Second and third floors have the books. So on the first floor, trying to put more books there, involving with the displays of highlighting books that reflect the lives of students of color, because that's the majority of students that we have, but also reflecting things like Women's History Month, Pride Month, that kind of thing too.
Yeah, those Heritage Month celebrations or commemorations are such a, I think, gold mine for academic libraries because a lot of your collection isn't circulating anyway. And so drawing focus to books on a thematic display in an academic library promotes, I think, leisure reading, which is also underrepresented in academic libraries. And especially in the later months of the semester, there are libraries that bring in service dogs to de-stress during finals and midterms, and they have coloring books and that kind of stuff. But for a lot of students, I think, the bookish students, sitting down with a short novel or even a graphic novel on a topic of the moment is highly valuable. And I think academic librarians can do. It's a very light lift to get those books out into the hands of our users that are looking for some more information, but maybe don't want to have a personal interaction with a grown-up or a student. Yeah, so getting books into hands is vital in academic libraries, especially when it comes to topical information. Let's shift over to the ACRL standards for libraries. ACRL, of course, is the Association of College and Research Libraries. It's a division of the American Library Association, and it's where all academic librarians belong. So let's keep them there and out of the general public. ACRL meets annually, and they put forth these guidelines that are on screen now for libraries in higher education. I just want to go through a couple of these since we have new academic librarians who have not yet been tainted by the classist, elitist culture of ACRL. I'm joking. I'm not. When it comes to educational role of librarians in academia and discovery of materials and information, uh, Julie has a very, I think, hands-on practice when it comes to creating LibGuides that are highly valuable and highly impactful. So, Julie, how do you see your use of LibGuides as satisfying this ACRL guideline? Well, first, describe maybe one of the most recent that you built. I know that you work on
Sure.
a lot of them and maintain so many, but describe your use of LibGuides. How have you used them in the past year?
So the LibGuide that went live most recently is for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and it highlights books, but also journals, excuse me, and databases that we have in our collection. One thing that I always find surprising when I create these LibGuides is I work with my colleague Chris, who has access to the back end of our LSP and is able to pull a list of books based on subject headings that I give him. And then I kind of filter through that list and I sort it, I organize it into different categories, and then I create a LibGuide highlighting books in those categories. But one thing that always strikes me is how many electronic resources we have. Because we have at Butler Library almost 500,000 print books, but then we have over 600,000 electronic books. And so those electronic books are kind of invisible to the average user. And not super discoverable. I mean, they are discoverable through the platform, but you'd have to kind of know to be looking for them. And so one thing that I think the LibGuides do and do well is to highlight these books that are part of our collection that users might have no idea that we even have because they're not showing up on the actual shelves in our physical spaces. So trying to decide what resources to highlight, and then selecting those resources is how I use the LibGuides. But I also use the LibGuides for the Social Justice Book Club and for other purposes as well. I know Justin's created a LibGuide for the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library and getting users to hopefully use the public library as well as our academic libraries.
Yeah, it's really it's such a useful tool, and I don't bother getting into the background of SpringShare because all of our students are required in intro to put together a LibGuide. Most recently, I discovered a group of students who are graduating this semester. Their group project for LibGuides, for learning LibGuides and using SpringShare. They built a LibGuide called The Real Taylor Swift, and it was fascinating. I went down a rabbit hole so deep and so fast. But it's a great way to organize information, like you said, to highlight electronic resources that may otherwise not be discoverable, or maybe prove to be challenging to discover for our users, especially those that are not really familiar with our library services. Like Julie touched on this earlier and mentioned that their Butler Library has no books on the first floor. When it comes to space and academic libraries, well, I'll rephrase that. When it comes to space on university campuses, generally, they're pretty well protected, well guarded, and there's not a lot of flexibility and not a lot of room. So I've seen over the past 10 years, uh, academic libraries get called upon to shrink their physical collection and make space for other departments. For example, my physical library on the Queens campus, there are no books on the first floor. We've got the Learning Commons, the Honors Commons, there's quiet study and group study rooms. There's the Freshman Center where new students go to get advisement and registration help. And then there's the Writing Center, or the Institute for Writing Studies, which is a university-wide resource. And then there's Einstein Bagel and Company, right? So you walk into the building that was purpose-built in the 1950s to house the university library. It is the physical center of the Queens campus, and of course the intellectual center of our global learning community. But you got to go up about 50 feet into the air to get your first book. You got to be on the third floor of a very Gothic vaulted ceiling, high ceiling building. So Mary, what other institutions are present at your library, if any? Not institutions, what other departments or student services do you have physically present in your building, if any?
So in comparison to what I know about Buff State, I would say in comparison, we don't really have the same setup. UB has 6 libraries total, and I'm pretty much only involved with Lockwood, which is our physical collection, most of our books, bound journals, etc. And then Silverman Library, which is our more media center kind of library. So in Silverman Library, it's 24 hours. There's silent study, there's group study, there's classrooms, but there are no books at all, nothing to be checked out. So I do find that when I'm telling students, oh, this is a library, but there's no books. But in there, we just have, it's called Whispers Cafe, like a We Proudly Serve Starbucks kind of cafe that's just open during daytime hours. But otherwise, Silverman is kind of situated in what I believe they're trying to start to call the heart of the campus. It's by like a really big cafeteria. It's very, very close to tutoring and academic support services. It's very, very close to the Honors College. It's very, very close to the administrative offices where all of the higher up administration is. So it's right there, but we haven't had the issue that I've perceived of anything really infiltrating into our space, which is nice. We do have a help desk, but I think that is very logical to have in the library. And we do also have an area that is library sponsored that does like laptop and other equipment loans. That's right there in Silverman. And then where I am right now in Lockwood, like I said, it's our physical collection, and that is all library space. Group study, private rooms, different soft seating. There's definitely some shifting and moving in the collection, and I can't really speak to what all is happening there because it's not my area. But in my impression, we pretty much just have library in the library spaces, which is very nice.
Nice, fancy school, huh? Now, Justin, I know the opposite is true for your Butler Library. You want to describe some of the services that are occupy your first floor?
Sure. So, here at Butler Library, we went in the what we call Learning Commons, but in that mode of, sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. We went into that mode of doing the quote one-stop shop. So we have tutoring, the writing center, the math center, student accessibility services, advising, is all on the first floor with study rooms and a quiet room and a Starbucks. Um, so it's interesting, but kind of in this academic realm that I'm not really used to, things kind of get put places and then things change. So, like, tutoring now answers to the library, which was not the case before. So it looks like there's some kind of consolidation that's happening, which then makes more sense in my mind. And the students like it. Students don't realize that the books are upstairs and don't think there's any books here. So that's definitely interesting. But yeah, we have a bunch of different carve outs. We have online and distance learning, and online learning is upstairs, as is something else. So there are there are a lot of pockets of different things here. The IT help desk actually shares a desk with us, which is really interesting. And so we have a student assistant, a librarian, and then a student assistant for the library who gives kind of directional quick lookup help, and then a librarian at the reference desk. Plus, at the same desk is a student assistant from IT who, if people get locked out of their banner or need help resetting their network, anything, they can go there and they get a live person, which is really cool. So we get a lot of foot traffic from that. So I actually, sometimes like, oh, where's my question? But the getting that foot traffic is nice.
If I may interject too, I think the one challenge with that is getting the word out to the tours about who we are and what we do. Because I'm always sitting at the desk and I'll hear like a tour come by and they'll just like point to my desk and be like, and that's the IT help desk where you can get all your computer stuff helped with. And it's like, no, yes, they're there too, but there's also a librarian here to help you with your research questions and sell that too. So that can be kind of challenging about putting multiple entities kind of close together like that. There can be some confusion.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of uh, I'm not gonna generalize, but I've seen the same. I've seen I think a little bit worse than that, where people kind of misrepresent the library on the tour because they don't have the information. So I'll see one group of prospective students walk by, and the tour guide says, "Oh yeah, this is the library. There's over 80 million items in the collection." It's like, what are you talking about? It's not the Library of Congress. It's a brick building on Queens. But linking this to, I think Justin touched on it, um, management, administration, and leadership, which is another ACRL guideline. When it comes to, Justin mentioned that tutoring was now absorbed into the library and is under the purview of, I guess, the library director or the head of reference or something like that. But when it comes to engaging with campus-wide initiatives, uh, how do you see your institution responding to your library? I'm going to use library, your library responding to campus-wide administration. Are you engaged? Are you represented as library faculty, represented when it comes to university-wide decisions or policies? If anyone can volunteer with an example of how you see your library engaging with administration.
I'll jump in quick. So what's really cool about here at Buff State is that with the Senate, we have a senator, but we also, on all of the committees, we have a seat reserved. Essentially, for a librarian on all of the committees. And some of them, if there's committees that there's interest, we can have more than one representative in those committees, which is great because I think there's only 10 of us faculty members here. And so we almost have an outsized representation, which is really cool because I was not expecting that when I came in. And our director, who, there's not a lot of layers between, there's only 10 of us. And our director answers directly to the provost. So while, and Julie may disagree, but for me, it's kind of cool because we almost have like a fast track into administration, but at the same time, we're kind of like away and separate, and I can, hide and run away from administrators while I'm waiting to see if my package gets renewed. So like I don't have like we're there, but we can also be kind of a half step, but we have a pretty direct line.
That's great. And that brings me to the next ACRL guideline, which is external relations. And I don't like picking on people twice in a row, but I think Justin has an example of how he's engaged with outside departments to bolster library or promote library services in a very positive way.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump over everyone in the last one. So one of the things that I've been doing here is, so I was a children's librarian before I kind of second careered into academic librarianship because I loved the field and I loved what we were doing, but the only way to kind of move was to be more administrative-y, and I like the usery end of the field. Anyway, so we have a childcare center on campus for students and faculty and staffs. Um, and it's really cool. And they came last summer and said, Kit, do you mind if you give us a little tour or something? And my supervisor, who was very, very supportive, was like, yeah. And here's our new hire who was a children's librarian. He'll take you around. And now it's formed into quite an interesting partnership. And they come every week. And through them, I've kind of gotten involved in a lot of other things on campus and met um, a lot of interesting and different people on campus that I wouldn't know, and our kind of version of the faculty club. Sometimes I'll pop in after work, and I still think I don't know anyone because I'm still here about a year, and I'll, get a beer, and I'm sitting there just kind of, mingling with some people, and people will run up to me and they know who I am because they get pictures of themselves, of their kids with me at the library. So it's kind of cool. I'm like library famous for little kids.
You skipped over the part of what you actually do and went right to drinks. The students, the children in the childcare center come to the university library once a week, and you act a fool with them and then send them back to daycare.
Right. So we do story time, we do crafts based on their motor skills, right? I'm not getting into the whole children's librarianshipness, but it's also really cool because a lot of the people that work at the childcare center are students here. So they're student assistants. So I can interact with them there and kind of sell them on other library type things and help them with any work. And I always have my, cards on the ready to, and then I have more of those connections with the students as well, or at least those students who are interested in that. So yeah, and then drinks.
Nice. All right. So before we go, let's just briefly touch on the tenure process. I know Justin mentioned his package, and he means the documentation to support his promotion to tenured faculty or his appointment as tenured faculty. It's such a tenuous thing that really every institution, I think, every university kind of defines it. Contract, collective bargaining agreements may or may not have a definition of it. It may be in the university statutes going back hundreds of years, and it had to be revised to include women or people of color, etc. So, what's your definition, and maybe has the process been? Let's skip the definition because I just said that that's idiosyncratic. When you arrived at your institution, did you find the process described in a clear way? Do you have opportunities for mentorship? Do you feel secure that all of the resources you need to get tenure have been made available to you? Julie, since you have the most experience in academia as a professional, why don't you give us your take on this?
Sure. Well, I have been through the tenure process as a sociology tenure track professor as well. I didn't make tenure, I didn't get to that far. But I can say that there's never good guidance in my experience, at least in my experience, N of two institutions, there have not been a whole lot of good guidance. But I would say that in addition to looking for a tenure track position, if that's what you want, which I think tenure is a valuable and worthwhile something that librarians should have, faculty status and tenure status. Another thing to look for when you're looking for jobs is unionization. Is it a unionized workplace? That was something that I wasn't honestly looking at, and I just sort of coincidentally happened into a unionized tenure track position. So I feel very lucky in that way. But those are some factors to consider. I was coming from Missouri, which is a right to work state, right to not work, basically, right to get fired for being gay state. So coming to New York, where I actually am unionized and have protections in that way, feels much more secure than I did before. Um, I think the the only advice really is that I've been given and that I have sought to follow is to keep records of everything. Every thank you letter you get, every thank you email you get, can go into your package, your documentation to support your tenure or your contract renewal, whatever it's called. Um, but you need all of that sort of documentation of what you've done. Not only do you need to have done it, but you also need to sort of prove that you've done it, and that other people have appreciated you for doing that work.
Yeah, that's vital. And I think that's something that goes a long way. It's a little thing. And if you come from a kind of corporate background, or if you're even in a public library, um, things like thank you notes like that might feel just kind of sentimental. But it does proof that you engaged and you provided a service, and that you work to promote the library, and that's a value, especially in something as kind of amorphous as the tenure process. Mary, what's your experience? Were you able to get the resources? Is the process clear to you?
Yeah, so overall, it has been pretty clear to me. I probably will never feel 100% clarity with the process. But, and tenure was never something that I was seeking, never something I had really thought about. So I, similar to Julie, feel very lucky that I did end up in a tenure track position in a unionized workplace. Um, but yeah, I feel fairly clear about the process, pretty clear about explanations. The thing that gets tricky is anyone you talk to will say like, oh, there's no hard and fast rule, but you just kind of know if you're on the right track or not, which for me is like a very organized, like checking off boxes thing that can be a little bit tricky. But when I started, I got set up with two faculty mentors. So they've been really, really helpful. And in addition to that, I've really found at UB, so I haven't said this yet, but we have much more than 10 faculty librarians. I don't know the number, but I know the library's faculty and staff is close to 200, I believe. So there is a real sense of support from tenure and tenure track faculty. Like, we've been through this, we want to help you. Like, everybody who I talk to is like, oh, let me read your statements. Oh, I'll look at your CV. I do feel supported by other people who have gone through this process. And in the first two reappointments before you get to the big, real tenure one, it is other people in the libraries reviewing your materials. And even though I sort of am kind of sensitive and take everything as like punitive, everybody has been very clear to me like any feedback you get on those first two reappointments is just to help you improve for the final one, the big one. So just take everything as advice and a learning experience and go from there. But I know Julie and Justin just turned in their first round of materials or are close to turning those in, and And I just turned mine in April too. So right now I'm feeling great. If you had asked this question a month ago, I might have been a lot more stressed out about it. But I'm like, at least I have a couple months to not be thinking about it constantly. So there's that. It's definitely ebbs and flows in terms of how much it's affecting my mental state.
Well, I mean, that's also Julie mentioned up front that it's not really conducive to a healthy work-life balance. I'm going to paraphrase them. Justin, I know for a fact that you are absolutely panicking about your CV. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, for those who don't know, CV's curriculum vitae. It's really a list of your own. In classical music, my background, the CV is essentially your performance history. And so a CV, unlike a resume, it's not very granular, but it is essentially a chronological list of what you've done related to your profession. So in my case, by the time I was about 20, my CV, including all of my performances, was maybe 9 or 10 pages long, double spaced, and that just included the name of the performance, the date, the venue, and the repertoire, the program that I played. So for professional CVs in academia, you want to include your publications, your presentations, any panels like this one that you've served on. But what else are you considering, and what else comprises your package, Justin?
So I just want to start with why I was so panicked. So I never expected to be an academic librarian. So I had a pretty solid resume, and then I was here and I was submitting for a grant, and they were like, submit your CV, and I was like, my what now? Like I didn't like I was like, oh no. So I was a little bit behind the eight ball. And one more thing, touching on um what Mary and Julie had said earlier, was that for me, the union thing was a like I was looking for that. So it is anyway, I just wanted to like union. Um what was the question?
Well, I'll ask something more specific. What resources have you identified to help you compose your CV?
Okay, so I'm not going to answer that question because what I've found is that I'm going to ask the question that you initially posed, I think, answer, which is that everyone in my department has been so super awesome and helpful and really wanting things. So I'm kind of putting stuff together and they're kind of going through it and like there's feedback. I have to give it to them. No one is saying to me, here is an outline, and everyone is very, very upfront with that they believe in academic freedom, and part of that academic freedom is that we create our own package. We write our own CV. But once you give something to them, they will go through and kind of say what they would like to see in it or different or change. But everyone's been very clear that you are in control. This is, your intellectual property. Which I think back to something like someone like what Mary said, um, as someone that just wants a checklist sometimes and being like, did I hand in form 7? Yes. Like this is enough to make you want to pull all your hair out. Um, what we have that's really cool, and I don't know if anyone would do this during the interview process, because again, my big concern was whether or not we were unionized, was much more than tenure track, was our bylaws allow for in the library that it's not just research, but it's research and creativity. We have built into our bylaws. So we're not as peer review article focused. We can we have a little more leeway. And so when looking at traditional teaching faculty members going up for tenure at the same time as us, um, our packages will look completely different because we have a very different type of job, even though we do teach. Um, so having that right in the bylaws and in the provost's eye when they get it is really cool. So I think that that's really cool. So if you're ever in a place where you can get something like that done, that for us is really cool.
So what you're saying is that the two, like Justin and Julie, have the same title in the same library, but Julie can do a diversity audit and identify materials in the collection, the children's collection, that are representative of the student body, and then Justin and use that research for their tenure package, and then Justin reading those books once a week to the child care center is the application of creativity. So both of those, that's two, bookends on a spectrum, a continuum of the work being, let's look at equity and inclusion in children's literature. And both of you have the scholarship, Justin's children's librarian background, Julie's sociology background. Both of you already have the experience and the knowledge to present that to as valuable information in your tenure package. So that flexibility is wonderful, I think. Not as I really love, because I'm more of the interactive person. I really love the idea of Mary being plugged into two mentors and having that kind of formal function, that formal setup. Whereas across town at Buff State, you guys are just running around like chickens without heads and hoping that you bump into good information. So good luck with that. I want to thank our speakers for joining us today. This was vital information for our students, and I think you made a wonderful impression as junior academic librarians about your first year experience in the field. And so thank you, and we encourage and support you. If DLIS can be of any help, for instance, you're going to get continuing ed unit and certificate and letter from the division thanking you for your appearance today. A letter of thanks will also be sent to your direct supervisor as reported in the DLIS, in the DELISA webinar presenter registration form. So we use that to make sure that everybody has materials to document your time spent with us today. So again, thank you. I'm going to head into housekeeping. I just want to remind our students who are watching this that DLS does offer mentorship, where we pair current students with recent graduates, and they mentor you on the experience of being an online learner in a grad program. So you can email dlis@stjohns.edu for more information and to be partnered with a recent graduate. Finally, at the end of the semester, we're heading into summer one, which begins on May 30th. June 1st, the second day of class, is the last day to add a drop to your schedule. June 14th is the last day to withdraw or take a pass-fail option. And finally, on the 19th of June, in commemoration of Juneteenth, the university will be closed. So no classes will happen, no administrative offices will be open. I will be at the beach. So thanks again to our presenters. I'm going to end the recording now.